Kidmissing TV. I'm your host, Angelina Wilson. Today we're going to talk about the case of Marie Burr. Her case has been mentioned in conjunction with Ted Bundy, but it is unlikely at 14 that he killed her and hit her that well, especially not driving. He rode a bicycle, he was 14. She was 8 years old. She was taken from her Tacoma, Washington bedroom through a window on August 31st, 1961. She shared a bedroom with a 3-year-old sister who had a broken arm at the time. The last time her parents saw her, she brought her little sister to them because her little sister was in pain in the middle of the night, and the parents told them to go back to bed. I don't know, I would think that I would probably take my baby into my bed, but that's just me. When Mom got up at 5:30, the front door had been locked and chained the evening before. But it was open. But I think the kidnapper came in through a window, if I'm not mistaken, and then left. And there were footprints outside the house. There was no sign of Marie anywhere. Again, a lot of people, because Ted Bundy was from the area and knew Marie, felt that she might have been his first victim. Again, there is another suspect, another teenage boy, that lived much closer to her than did Bundy. They say Bundy only lived blocks from her house, but there is some dispute to that, to how far he lived from her. They actually made inquiries about his DNA, and there was a vial of blood from his arrest in 1978. They completed the tests, but unfortunately there wasn't a complete profile. In the death house, before he was put to death, Bundy said, "The Burrs lived all the way across town from where I hung out as a kid and had my paper route. It was a different part of the world with different schools." and that's the thing. It's over the years they've said, "Oh, she was on his paper route." She's actually on another kid's paper route. I will say that Ann Rule, true crime writer, believes that Bundy killed Marie. She does used to get asked by Marie a lot. She's passed on. Finally, forensic experts were able to get a full DNA profile from his blood and get it accepted to the FBI database, which is called CODIS. It's the combined DNA database, something like that. In 2014, it was stated that Bundy had shown signs of what he was going to be when he grew up, so to speak, as a child. And I have to say, considering what I know about Bundy and about his past, I'm not terribly surprised he became what he became, and he hated women as much as he did, because I know that he was lied to his whole life. His mother was actually his grandmother, and his sister was actually his mother. I know his grandfather wasn't the nicest man. There was just a lot in his life, you know. The grandfather he thought was his father. Later on, when his actual mother married, he was given her husband's last name, which is how he became Bundy. But again, he displayed disturbing behavior. That's not uncommon. There is a book by author Rebecca Morris. Supposedly, Bundy confessed to Anne Marie's case to a college professor who was researching serial killers and interviewed him. And Rebecca's book is Ted and Anne, The Mystery of a Missing Child and Her Neighbor Ted Bundy. She spent 4 years researching his connection. She spent much time with the serial killer as well. There wasn't enough DNA to link him to that case. I'm not sure exactly what they had for DNA to begin with in that case. But the best suspect in 1961 was a high school neighbor boy who was 2 houses away from Anne's house. Police questioned him a couple of times, and a couple of bean pickers who had come up from Oregon to look for work. There wasn't enough evidence to charge any of them. And Anne's mother vacillated back and forth on whether Bundy had been the one to take her daughter. Like I said, because of his age, I see it as unlikely, but not entirely 100% ruled out. But I do think his involvement is probably, well, it's what keeps her case in the news, but it's also what hinders her case, I think, from being solved. Now, I have a couple more things I want to go through with you. I have an update on a case from the Pennsylvania State Police. It seems that Beth Doe has been identified. Beth Doe, it turns out, was 15-year-old Evelyn Colon from Jersey City, New Jersey, not far from Pennsylvania. She was found on the riverbank of the Lehigh River, the east side borough of Carbon County, Pennsylvania. She also had a near full-term fetus. This was December 20th, 1976. This is 40 plus years ago. In fact, it's going to be 45 years at the end of the year. That's amazing. On March 31st, 2021, one count of criminal homicide has been filed against Luis Sierra, age 63, he was 19 at the time, of Ozone Park, New York. He was her boyfriend and the father of her child. So we can guess the motive. You know, I don't understand why people kill people to keep them from having their child, especially when you kill somebody who's 9 months pregnant with your child. You've watched their belly grow for 9 months. I can't fathom it. But I'm very excited she has her name back and that her family has her back. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the Amber Alert and its many incarnations here in the United States. All over the world now, they use the Amber Alert. And everyone knows that Amber Hagerman was abducted, raped, and murdered in Texas. The case is still unsolved. But what you might not know is that in Georgia, sure, they have the Amber Alert, but when a child goes missing in Georgia, Levi's call goes out. For Levi Frady, He was last seen on Wednesday, October 22nd, 1997. Investigators are seeking two witnesses in that case who were along that road around that night. And in Arkansas, a Morgan Nick alert is sent when a child goes missing. Morgan Nick's case you may have actually seen on Unsolved Mysteries. Morgan was taken from a ball game. Her abduction was actually witnessed by her little friend. And I think this guy was waiting around the ballpark, the Little League game, to get a hold of someone. I really think that was his reason for being there. Also in Hawaii, they use the Mallie Alert, or Mallie Alert, for Mallie L. Gilbert. She was just 6 years old when she was abducted in 1985. She was raped, sodomized, choked, and drowned. Her body was found in a shallow grave. An acquaintance of her father was convicted of her murder. We also have in the United States something called a Silver Alert. That is for either an endangered adult, someone who is handicapped, ill, something along those lines, or they are elderly. That's why it's called a Silver Alert. So, I just wanted to familiarize you with those alerts and what they all mean, because they're all basically the same thing, but we never had any kind of alert before Amber. And that's when the other states started coming up with Mallie, Levi's call, the Morgan Nick alert. Excuse me. To help and rescue our missing children. And I'm so grateful for that. Again, just to recap, we talked about the case of Marie Burr today. The prime suspects in her case are a teenage neighbor and the infamous Ted Bundy. I can actually remember when he was executed because I was scared to death of that dude. I remember looking at the pictures of his victims and they looked like me, which scared the poo-poo out of me, as you can easily imagine. So I was glad he was already in prison when I was about 4 years old, but just the idea that he had no problem escaping was scary enough. And while I'm not for the death penalty, I was not sad when he was killed. Because he was just a scary human being. Probably primarily because he had this facade that was so friendly and so, it just, he had that facade. I think you kind of know what I mean. Next time on Kidmissing TV, we will be talking about the case of the Belle Chase John Doe. This is a sad one. You're gonna need the tissues. That will be Thursday, by the way. I want to dedicate both shows this week to my dad. 4 years ago, tomorrow, we said goodbye to him. He was 2 days away from what would have been his 73rd birthday. He would be turning 77 on the 9th. And one more thing. Happy birthday to my mother's best friend and PCA, Diane. We love you so much. Everybody have a great, beautiful, sunny day. Again, check out Kidmissing's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All the links, as always, are in the description. Finally figured out how to put them there permanently so I didn't have to type them every time. I love that feature. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, have a great day. I hope you had such a blessed Easter.